The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello and welcome back to Open 2.0. I'm your host Alyssa Cologne and I hope you're all staying safe and positive during this time. Today we will learn about a new school coming to the Bronx, Walkabout High School. Project Director Kam Gordon is here to talk to us and tell us more. Hello and welcome to the show. So for my first question is, can you talk about being a project director and what it entails?
Absolutely. So the project director of a new school in the New York City Department of Education works to build and lead the design team that will help launch the new school. The project director is simply a transition name for an interim acting school leader or principal.
Can you talk about working with the Bronx community and students and why it is important to you?
Absolutely. I am super passionate about the Bronx. I'm a Bronx native, born and raised. I am the daughter of immigrant parents, and my parents made all sorts of sacrifices to ensure that I had a quality education. They didn't know much about the American school system, but they certainly knew that they wanted the best for me. And this is ultimately the story, I think, of every single family, immigrant or not. So when I was in high school, I took 3 buses to get to my school, often leaving before 6 a.m. This is still the reality for many young people today. While I did have lots of opportunity at my high school, what I lacked most was a real sense of belonging and a real sense of feeling like I was a part of a family. In reflecting on my experience now, I recognize that I was playing a trading game. I was trading my community, my family, and my friends in order to access a quality education. Understanding your identity should not be a luxury. It should be a necessity for all students in the Bronx. And our students should not have to play this trading game anymore. The narrative that, you have to leave the Bronx in order to get a quality education is not right. It's false. It's my hope to change that with Walkabout Bronx. We want our students to have access to a quality education that gives them the tools necessary to critically evaluate the problems facing not only our community, but the world. I believe that young people are the untapped knowledge source that will solve today's complex problems while also transforming our communities. The global pandemic has reinforced this. The world needs our young people and their collective innovation now more than ever before. This is our moment. And simply put, this new school is my love letter to the Bronx. It means the world to me.
That's amazing that you're a Bronx native and that you're trying to do everything that you can to help the Bronx and your community around you, which is amazing. So now my next question is, why do you think it's important to develop schools and educational systems in the Bronx?
So given our current realities with the pandemic, I think the landscape of education is changing dramatically in front of us. As educators, the things that we cling to before, like our classrooms and our schedules and our school building, are now cast away. While the pandemic has been devastating and many of us have experienced so much loss, it has forced the whole education system to be more forward thinking about instruction and learning. I think this shift is particularly important for underserved communities like the Bronx, where many high school students are struggling with not only achievement, but just seeing themselves as worthy of such an accomplishment. As a result, many students are entering into college without being prepared for what it requires to be successful. This is why I think we need a different model that directly connects what students learn in the classroom to the real world. Walkabout Bronx, I believe, will do just that. With its 5 unique challenge areas of applied academics, internships, service learning, wilderness trips, and authentic presentation. Our belief is that the best preparation for the real world is the real world. And with that, it's our hope we'll be able to create a learning environment where students can see clear connections between what is learned in the classroom and how it shows up in the real world.
That's amazing. My next question is, what makes Walkabout High School different?
So, a walkabout is an Aboriginal rite of passage for young people to step into adulthood. This is an important element as we think of high school as being the pathway for our students to adulthood. The birth of Walkabout really got me thinking about what would be an appropriate rite of passage for students from the Bronx. We could not develop this model without addressing the injustices and systems of oppression that marginalized people face in our world today. This is why we describe ourselves as a structurally anti-racist experiential school. The fact is, we know students operate in a much, much larger system that disproportionately disadvantages Black and Brown students. Our goal is really to interrogate those systems and build a structure that helps to mitigate those gaps. We recognize that we must teach our students to be critically conscious and give them the tools necessary to interrogate systems in our community that work to benefit some while also hurting others. It's through this work of examining power structures that I believe we'll be able to reclaim our stories and do the advocacy work necessary to create change in our community. We really want our school to be so community centered. And so the idea of bringing a school into the community that allows for this natural progression of students going out into the community and the community coming into the school.
This is really great that you're doing this, and I just want to say that Open 2.0, we're really excited for this new school to be open in the Bronx and to give other, Black and brown kids the opportunity to come here and expand their education, and for there to be a school here where they feel safe and feel, open to learn, discuss, and meet other new people. How is Walkabout High School preparing for the possibilities of remote learning in the world of COVID-19?
Well, we know the effects of COVID-19 has been devastating on many of the lives of our students and our families, especially right here in the Bronx. The simple social emotional impact of students being in isolation and being in quarantine and not being able to interact with their peers, it's crippling. And as we prepare for the possibility of remote learning in the fall, we are primarily focused on offering the social and emotional support that we recognize is so desperately needed. We see our first group of students as founders, so they'll be helping us to build this school. And so we'll be leaning on them heavily to tell us and provide antidotes about how remote learning is going and how we can build a virtual learning community that is engaging and supports their needs.
How can the community get involved with Walkabout High School?
So I'm glad you asked that. So like I said before, Walkabout will be deeply, deeply embedded in the community. And so we'd like to build partnerships that allow our students to have real world experiences. So whether you'd like to host an intern, get our students involved in your work in some way, or just simply coming and talking to our students, we want to hear from you. So you can email us at info@walkaboutbronx.org if you'd like to get involved.
Thank you for giving your information and your email. My next question is, what can students do if they're interested attending Walkabout Bronx, and where can they enroll?
So we have just a few spots remaining for the fall. If students are interested, they can add themselves to the Walkabout Bronx waitlist on the New York City DOE My Schools page. Also, interested families and students can email us again at info@walkaboutbronx.org if they have any questions or they'd like to learn more. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Our handle is Walkabout Bronx.
Thank you. And now on to our last question. Do you have any advice or tips for the Bronx community and families during this time?
So my advice from our Bronx family now is that we must take care of each other. We have to be each other's business. That's just the reality. So we need to lend a helping hand wherever we can. And I think we'll get through this collectively. We got to just hold each other up and push forward. You know, after all, we're Bronx strong. This is the X. And no matter what, we'll conquer.
Thank you so much, Kam Gordon. It has been great talking with you and learning about Walkabout High School. We are excited and welcome this new school into the community. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the next Open 2.0. Bye.